3 days before the opening match of the 2026 World Cup, The Economist published an editorial with a stark proposition. They wrote, "This may just be the last World Cup." For nearly a century, the tournament has projected an image of global unity and borderless celebration. But in the final 72 hours before kickoff, that facade has rapidly disassembled. The host nation is currently projecting aggressive military power abroad while attempting to welcome the world within its borders. Meanwhile, FIFA's governing body has repeatedly failed to navigate the resulting diplomatic fallout. The 2026 World Cup has morphed into a failing geopolitical entity, buckling under the weight of its own internal and external pressures. This map highlights the core geographic absurdity of the tournament. Over the past several months, the United States and Israel have launched over 900 military strikes across Iran. Concurrently, the Iranian national soccer team was drawn into Group G, scheduled to play 3 group stage matches right here inside the United States. To bypass the immediate security threats of being based in an active enemy state, Iran was forced to establish its training camp outside the host country entirely, down in Tijuana, Mexico. The squad now has to cross a highly militarized border check just to show up for their scheduled fixtures. The diplomatic friction didn't stop there. U.S. authorities outright denied visas to 15 members of the Iranian delegation. In response, the local federation realized they had zero guarantees their fans could enter the country, and FIFA ultimately revoked Iran's entire ticket allocation. A global institution predicated on international accessibility cannot function when the host nation is in an active hot war with the participants. The logistical blockades extend far beyond active war zones. Just a few days ago, Omar Arten, named Africa's best male referee in 2025, flew into Miami International Airport. Despite holding a valid U.S. visa and a diplomatic passport, he was denied entry and put on a return flight to Istanbul. U.S. Customs and Border Protection cited unspecified vetting concerns, but looking at this data chart reveals a broader pattern of exclusion. Arten is from Somalia, which sits on the host nation's active travel ban list. Fans and officials from 4 qualified nations, Iran, Haiti, Senegal, and the Ivory Coast, are currently blocked from attending their own matches, alongside 15 other nations facing severe visa restrictions. Even for countries not explicitly banned, the financial hurdles are staggering. Citizens from 5 African nations, Algeria, Cape Verde, Senegal, Tunisia, and Côte d'Ivoire, were suddenly required to pay a non-refundable visa bond of up to $15,000 per person to enter the United States. These targeted exclusions destroy the core meritocracy of global sports, effectively turning the World Cup into an exclusionary Western fortress. And for those who actually make it inside the fortress, the realities on the ground are grim. At 4 a.m. on June 7th, 9 people were injured in a mass shooting on Truce Avenue in Kansas City. That is just 4 miles from the hotel where the England national team will base camp for the opening phase of the competition. The following day, multiple people were stabbed outside Penn Station in New York. The U.S. government has poured $846 million into security grants, but the billion-dollar protocols contrast sharply with the bleeding reality of everyday American street violence. Inside the venues, the infrastructure relies on a precarious workforce. At SoFi Stadium in Los Angeles, 2,000 hospitality workers authorized a strike with a 96% vote. They cite stalled wage negotiations and a constant, documented fear of ICE abductions during their shifts. This friction is destroying attendance. For the United States men's national team opener against Paraguay at SoFi Stadium, tens of thousands of tickets remain unsold. A minimum face value ticket costs over $1,100. The tournament has mutated into a hollow, hyper-corporatized shell, priced entirely out of reach for everyday fans, and built on the backs of terrified, underpaid domestic workers. As the infrastructure crumbles on the ground, the administrative leadership is facing its own reckoning. Former UEFA president Michel Platini recently filed criminal proceedings in French courts against FIFA president Gianni Infantino, surfacing a decade-long political battle right as the tournament begins. The American leadership is equally disorganized. Markwayne Mullin, the Secretary of Homeland Security in charge of tournament safety, openly admitted he has never watched a soccer match. Meanwhile, his entire agency has been hobbled by a 6-week federal funding shutdown. This domestic friction is a direct security concern. The intense booing of President Trump at Madison Square Garden just days before kickoff mirrors the civil unrest that intelligence briefings warn could disrupt fan events and transportation infrastructure. Internationally, the fallout is severe. A unified coalition of African nations is currently threatening a total boycott of the 2026 tournament, citing the treatment of their fans and officials at the border as an ethical tipping point. Warfare, exclusionary borders, and systemic institutional rot have permanently shattered the World Cup's viability as a global institution. The lethal combination confirms the Economist's opening thesis. This is the accumulation of ruin.